Hello and welcome to our presentation. We are Group 6 and today we're talking about our macro project topic, that is, what are the causes of inflation 2022? Our presentation will have five parts, that is, introduction, causes of inflation, consequences of inflation, solution, and final one is conclusion. So let's go into the first part, introduction. In the current market economy operating full of dynamisms and fierce competition, economists and businesses must act swiftly to address and understand the issues. In addition to many other pressing issues, inflation 2022 as a malady of the market economy is a very complex problem that necessitates a significant commitment of time, effort, and intelligence to resolve with favorable outcomes. Inflation is always a two-edged sword. As scientists and management have diligently researched, one way is that it promotes economic expansion. However, when inflation is large and unchecked, it has very negative effects on both the national economy and social life. And about the definitions, inflation is the macroeconomic devaluations of a currency and is defined as a steady rise in the overall price level of goods and service over time. In other words, inflation is a way of expressing how much less individuals can buy with $1 of currency. Because one unit of currency in the country buys less commodities and pay less for service than it did before when price rise.
So now let's begin with the causes of inflation in 2022. So the pandemic is one of the main factors contributing to inflation problems in many nations around the world. Lockdown reduces the growth and spread of infections to local transmissions rather than a community spread. Thus, lockdowns is a very crucial decision in the short run. Consequently, lockdown disrupted the logistics and gave rise to scarcity in labor force. There were severe changes in people behavior. Hoarding and panic buying was observed, which led to a quick rise in the demand side of the food supply chain. Food supply chains were impacted by shortages of workers and of the infrastructure needed to move food from pots to plates. The result was a dramatic rise in the cost of food in the United States and worldwide. So according to the Consumer Price Index percent change from a year ago, consumer price surged more than expected over the past 12 months, indicating a worsening outlook for inflation and cementing the likelihood of substantial interest rate hikes this year. The Consumer Price Index report patched the U.S. inflation rates at 7.5% over the past 12 months, the highest rate in 40 years. There were severe changes in people behavior. Hoarding and panic buying was observed, which led to a quick rise in the demand side of the food supply chain. Food supply chains were impacted by shortages of workers and of the infrastructure needed to move food from pots to plates. The result was a dramatic rise in the cost of food in the United States and worldwide. Okay, so the shortage of workers also contributes to the inflation. It is inevitable that the COVID-19 pandemic and additional elements such as the Great Resignation also caused a significant disruption in the labor force. Based on the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, there were 6.9 million unfilled posts in February 2022, and in April 2020, there will be 11.4 million job openings. As a result, in the labor shortage market, current employees are encouraged to ask for more compensation and better benefits as they have more negotiation power. Then, when these requests are not accepted, they are not willing to work for a company for a long time. Furthermore, fewer employees and more job options make it difficult for businesses to attract and keep staff. Although many businesses have prepared for higher labor costs, these expenditures have soured since the outbreak. The quick rise in labor cost is pressuring businesses' bottom lines. Therefore, manufacturers were forced to raise the cost of goods sold to cope with these issues, which was a key to the growth of the inflation level.
Another cause of inflation is the effect of the Iran and Russia conflicts. Russia is one of the world's largest natural gas and petroleum exporters, accounting for 11.6% of global export in 2020 and 48% of oil exports went to Europe. Further, Russia and Ukraine take almost a third of the world wheat. Russia make up 30.1% of total wheat export in 2021, and Ukraine were also in the top 5 with 8.5%. Firstly, because of the sanctions on Russia's oil companies have led to the rise of gas more than doubling since the start of the conflict, around $100 per barrel. Secondly, the shortage of truck drivers, seaport slots, and warehouse space bring costly delays and raising shipping rates for goods. Third, the conflict has significantly contributed to a run-off in wheat rice, which rice saw by 90.7% in March 2022. Hence, globally, food by 2022 is 20% more expensive than it were 1 year ago. The added cost at every step results in rivals for customers, and releasing all Russian natural gas and food supplies is impossible in short to medium run, and current price levels will significantly impact inflation. Although the higher salary results in the rise in personal incomes, it also has a negative impact on the inflation rate. Wages and salaries in the U.S. increased by 4.4% for the 12 months ending in September 2022. In fact, possibility amongst customers is correlates with people's financial status. Customers' confidence tends to be high when wages rocket, leading to the more spendings. Personal consumption expense in the U.S. rose from around $12 billion in 2020 to about $17.7 billion in 2022. This created a demand and supply gap with higher demand and less flexible supply, as the overall demand increased more rapidly than the economy's production capacity. Also, customers are more willing to pay more. This in turn generates the scope for firms to go up rise, thus inflation occurs. Final cause of inflation is monetary policies. Many policies were applied to help the economy recover after COVID-19. Monetary easing is one of the policies used in the almost all countries worldwide. The Fed cut its target to the interest rate to essentially zero on March 3rd and March 15, 2021, and undertook a sizable $700 billion programs of quantitative easing to protect the economy from the virus consequences. As of March 2021, in the United States, $13 trillion in new money was printed to solve the economic problems. As a result, in the medium term, firms and households' economic activities pick up, promoting the economy. However, in the long term, it could lead to a situation in which too much money was chasing to fill goods and services. When supplies could not meet growing demand, upward results on price were also generated, leading to inflation. Stanford economist John Taylor said that inflation rates when the Fed sets an interest rate that is too low or when the growth of the money supplies is too quick. Inflation rates are expected to be far above the global average of 8.8%. Venezuela, Sudan, and Zimbabwe have the highest inflation levels, over 200%. Further, 95 countries from developed to developing or are projected to see inflation from 5% to 10%.
Let's move on to the consequences of inflation of 2022. The first impact is increasing the gender pay gap. Women around the world, even before the inflation, were less wealthy than men. Prices for women products have risen faster than males during the last 2 years. In the United Kingdom, for example, women's formal shoes will cost 75% more in 2021, while men's will cost only 14% more. The same disparity can be seen in some other personal products like razors, shirts, denim, and even haircuts. Everyone is impacted by the global inflation issue, but women and girls suffer more heavily. As you can see here, this is the new statement analysis of Office for National Statistic data. Products targeted to women have a tendency to grow in price more than those marketed to males. Some price increase have been comparable. For example, throughout the year, the average men's and women's basic t-shirts increased by 27% and 33% respectively. Consequently, the inflation in 2022 is significantly increased the menstrual, women and girls' worry and anxiety over the expand of period supplies. The second consequence is food insecurity. The global inflation of domestic food prices is still high. Data from July to October 2022 show that almost all low and middle income countries and even some of high income nations still witness high inflation. On the other hand, conflict and violence are also one of the leading causes of starvation, with 60% of the world hungry live in the war-torn countries. As a result, the world is facing a severe food crisis, the biggest in the modern histories. Every night, up to 829 million people go to bed hungry, and a total of 49 million individuals in 49 nations are on the verge of starvation.
So the next consequence is gasoline price rise. Gas prices in particular are becoming even more unaffordable, up a whopping 48.7% since last year and 4.1% just in the last month. Gas prices remain a major issue for Americans, many of whom rely on their cars to get to work. Plus, as the summer driving season gets into full swing, some may wish to use their car even more, and rising inflation may also succeed as a recession is on the way. So the last consequence is impact on bonds. Monitoring inflation is important. If you hold bonds or treasury notes, the fixed income assets by the same amount each year. When inflation rises faster than the return on the assets, they become less valuable. People rush to sell them, further depreciating their value. When that happens, the US government is forced to offer higher treasury yields to sell them at all. As a result, more mortgage interest rates increase. Higher rates lower the value of your investment. They also increase the cost of the federal government of financing the US debt. The interest on the national debt rise, and although our contractionary fiscal policies that slow economic growth, which translate into a lower standard of living.
So let's move on to the proposed solution for controlling inflation based on the causes mentioned before. During the pandemic lockdowns, demand focus became excessive and also spikes. The supply chains must be significantly impacted. Therefore, firms are affected by supply chain shocks, have aimed to strengthen, adapt, and restructure their supply chain. Firstly, businesses should develop their digital capability to improve forecasting, increase supply chain visibility from beginning to finishing, and help employees realize their full potential. The use of cutting-edge digital tools like artificial intelligence, control towers, and digital twin could help solve supply chain challenges. Also, reducing government-imposed tariffs and reduction on transportation would offset the increased pressure on transportation expense, therefore which the supply is not congested. The level of inflation will be reduced. And contractionary monetary policy, which is one of popular methods of managing inflation, this goal is to reduce the money supply in the economy by increasing interest rates or selling bonds. Firstly, the rising interest rates decrease consumer spending and investment, since borrowing costs grow and saving become a more attractive proposition. Indeed, business will often get paid less when there is less activities in the economy because loans and investing are more expensive. As the result, there may be fewer employees and lower earnings. This means less money for households and therefore decreased consumer spending. Furthermore, when the bonds are issued, a significant portion of the money circulation is taken out in the economy and resulting decrease in liquidity and inflation rates. This way, the government gets to reduce inflation and investors also get an opportunity to invest and save revenue.
So next, implementing fiscal policy is also a potential way for the government to reduce inflation. Firstly, lower tax rates can persuade more people to enter labor over the medium term. For example, in Australia in 2007, the tax cuts increased to labor supply by 300,000 people, accounting for 21% of the total increase in labor over the last 7 years. When there are more workers in the labor, there will be more competition for jobs, which slows wage growth. As wages are the cost of firms, it could grow more slowly, leading to a slower rise in prices, reducing inflation. However, the tax cuts can have adverse effects since it can lead to higher demand with limited supply, which may deteriorate the situation. So the government should apply average tax cuts when maintaining adequate supply chains. Additionally, fiscal policy can help the economy to become more sustainable in the long term by allocating government spending to other aspects, namely education and healthcare. For example, according to the government article this year, the Vietnamese Congress has reduced the VAT tax by 2% and reduced the environmental protection tax by 50% in order to decelerate the increase in prices. In America, the new government action to fight inflation is the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. This new law includes an investment of $369 billion in climate and energy policies and $64 billion to extend the Affordable Care Act to reduce health insurance costs. To conclude, since fiscal policy can also lead to undesirable situations, the government should have optimal adjustments and balance the utilization of both fiscal and monetary policy.
Finally, we come to the conclusion. So, in conclusion, there are numerous significant causes of inflation 2022, such as the COVID-19 pandemic, Russia's ongoing conflict with Ukraine, increased demand for labor, more jobs and higher wages, and monetary policies as well as money printing. As a result, inflation 2022 has obviously caused negative consequences like increasing gender pay gap, food and gasoline prices, and even impact on bonds. Finally, our report had approached promising solution from supply chain to monetary policies and fiscal policies. Inflation in 2022 will be a problem for everyone. Therefore, we must work together to combat it in order to ensure the future of the economy in general and a good quality of life in particular.